Hey everyone, let's talk about liquidity. What is liquidity and why is it so important in financial markets? And all you really need to know is that Bitcoin has a ton of it. So if you don't feel like you have to watch this video unless you're interested in the concept, because all you need to know is that Bitcoin has it. But if you're interested in more than just Bitcoin has it, well, here's a quick primer. Okay, so liquidity, it describes how liquid a market is. Well, what does that mean? Well, how liquid a market is describes how much buying and selling of anything happens in that market and how much buying or selling can happen in that market before it affects the price. So, for example, if you have at the Jackson, Mississippi farmers market, if you show up with a dozen eggs, almost certainly you're going to be able to sell them in a day. If you show up with 10 dozen eggs, you'll probably be able to sell them in a day. If you show up with 1,000 dozen eggs, you're almost certainly going home with your eggs, a bunch of your eggs. That's because the Jackson Farmers Market has some liquidity for eggs, but not a huge amount of liquidity for eggs. Now, if you go to Kroger and you sign a contract to become one of their egg suppliers, then absolutely you can drop off 1,000 dozen eggs. And Kroger has a huge amount of liquidity for buying and selling of eggs. So all financial markets and all markets work that way. So why does that matter? Well, because now and then you run into situations where people are excited about an asset that does not have liquidity. So, for example, typically after people get scammed, one of the ways that a scammer will try to pacify the person is by sending them a crypto token that has almost zero liquidity, but a very high price. So, for example, I was talking to one person who had been sent a crypto token that, and they almost always use Coinbase Wallet, not the real Coinbase app, not the real Coinbase mobile app that I recommend you use, but something called Coinbase Wallet, which is another app that Coinbase does that will basically show you anything. It'll show you, literally any token, whether it's junk or not. So one person I was talking to said, well, look, the scammer sent me $20,000 of this crypto token. So all I need to do is convert the $20,000 of this crypto token into US dollars or into Bitcoin, and then I'll basically undo the scam. And I told them, I was like, yeah, but the problem is that token does not have liquidity. The reason it looks like it's worth $20,000 is because the scammers are buying and selling that token from each other a little bit every day to keep the price at a certain level. But if you actually go and try to sell that token, you're going to find out that there's no liquidity, meaning you're going to find out that if you try to get $20,000 for that token you have, there's no market for it. Again, it's the equivalent of somebody saying, well, I sold one egg for $1 at the Mississippi farmers market, so I can make $1 million by selling 1 million eggs. And the answer is no, you can't, because there's not $1 million worth of liquidity for selling eggs. So in this case, the person, we had to jump through some hoops because it's a pain. The scammers always make it difficult to convert whatever they send you back to US dollars because they don't want you to figure out that what they sent you is actually trash. So in this case, we jumped through those hoops. I guided them through how to jump through the hoops. And Coinbase said, hey, even though I'm showing the balance at $20,000 in Coinbase Wallet, again, you don't have to worry about this because you should not be using Coinbase Wallet. Coinbase Wallet is not something I recommend. I recommend Coinbase, the real app where you can buy and sell Bitcoin. But anyway, so we got it figured out, and if they had tried to convert that balance to US dollars, it was worth 17 cents. So the total liquidity for that scam token, even though it looked like the token was worth $20,000, it was actually worth 17 cents if you tried to sell it. Because again, the only liquidity in that market was the scammers selling themselves back and forth a few $1,000s a day to try to make the price look it was at a certain level. Now, if you think something that with $20,000 that is actually only worth 17 cents for liquidity, that is actually not the worst I've seen. So I talked to one person, and the scammer had sent them a token. It was like BTCM. It was like the Bitcoin ticker symbol, but it had an M on the end of it. And of course, each token was worth like 0.000000 point something, XYZ. It was basically, each token was worth like almost nothing. But anyway, the scammer had sent them $107 million of this token in an effort to shut them up and try to keep them from going to authorities. So the scammer basically said, look, you sent me tens of thousands of dollars of Bitcoin. In this case, in both of these cases, the scam was that the scammer was going to trade the Bitcoin and make them more money. So in both cases, the scammer came back when they asked for their money back, and the scammer said, well, hey, I can't give you your money back in Bitcoin because I've been trading it, but I can give you this super valuable crypto token, and all you have to do is just sit on it. And so in the first case, it was, tens of thousands of dollars. In this case, the total, even though the amount that had been scammed was also tens of thousands of dollars, the scammer sent them a token that the sort of headline price in Coinbase Wallet was $107 million. So for a period of time, they actually thought they had $107 million. So they reached out to me and said, hey, I think I've been scammed, but if I haven't been scammed, I have $107 million. Well, I was sad to tell them that they indeed had been scammed and they did not have $107 million. And sorry, but they just didn't have $107 million. So we jumped through the hoops because at this point I've gotten good at jumping through the hoops to see if, how much a token is worth if somebody's been scammed. Now, thankfully, I'm proud to say I'm not aware of anybody that follows me or bought a Bitcoin at my recommendation that has been scammed. Everybody I've ever talked to that's got scammed before I started, doing Facebook videos and posting about Bitcoin. They all got scammed before that based on Bitcoin that they bought of their own accord and based on the fact that they thought they were going to, get more Bitcoin by sending their Bitcoin to somebody on, usually it's WhatsApp, by someone who reaches out to them on WhatsApp, offers to trade the Bitcoin and make them more Bitcoin. So in every case, these are people that were not following my advice. They were not doing what I say to do. They bought the Bitcoin in both cases. In the two cases I'm talking about, they bought the Bitcoin before I was even talking about Bitcoin. And they, they did what I tell people never to do, which is they sent their Bitcoin to someone who promised they were going to trade the Bitcoin and make it worth more. So this person supposedly has $107 million of this BTCM token on, it was like capital BTC and then lowercase like M. And if you look it up, it's like some convoluted word salad of what this token's supposed to do. So I told the guy, I was like, well, sadly, 107 million is probably only worth 17 cents. The last guy I helped with the exact same problem, and his like scam token was like ETHM or something like that. It was like Ethereum, but it was like ETH with a lowercase m, and of course it traded at a tiny fraction of 1 penny and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I told the guy, I was like, well, your 107 million is probably worth 17 cents, but if you're up for it, we can jump through the hoops and we'll find out exactly what it's worth. So we did that. We jumped through the hoops, and it ultimately came back. When we clicked the, convert now or preview, we didn't actually do it. I told them, don't actually do it because we need to go to law enforcement with this, and both of them did. But I was like, so don't actually convert it, just click preview so that you'll find out how much money you'll actually get if you do convert it. And so he clicked preview and sent me a screenshot, and Coinbase said, this is not a liquid market. Expect massive slippage. The total amount of balance that will be credited to your account if you move forward by converting $107 million of this crypto token into US dollars is 1 penny. And I told him, well, that's sad. That's 1/17th what I thought you were going to get. I thought you were going to get 17 cents, but you're actually getting one single solitary penny. So that was my experience with the least liquid token I've ever seen was $107 million of it that was worth 1 penny. And again, it was worth 1 penny because every day the hackers got online, or scammers, I should say. The scammers got online, transferred a few bucks back and forth to each other so that the marketplace looked like the token was priced at $1, but ultimately it obviously was not. So, scammers will do that. They'll create like a fictitious crypto coin, and then every day they'll log in online. They'll trade $1 of it to each other. The next day they trade it back. The next day they trade it forward. The next day they trade it back. They just trade it back and forth between themselves. And that way it looks like it has a price. And they're like, look, the token is worth 107 million. And the truth is, no, two scammers are just trading $1 of it back and forth every day to try to make it look like it supports the price. But then when you try to convert what looks like $107 million of this, you find out it's only worth a penny because there's no actual market for it. Basically, the market's like $1 a day. But in this case, it was even worse than that. It was worth 1 penny for $107 million of this coin. And the only reason it's even worth that is the scammers were bidding 1 penny hoping that they could get all that scam coin back so that they didn't have to invent a new scam coin for the next guy. So in both cases, people lost tens of thousands of real US dollars. And in one case, it looked like the scam token was $20,000 that was really worth 17 cents. And in the other case, it was $107 million that was really worth 1 penny. Now, does this matter in the real world? It actually does, because that dynamic also applies to legitimate things, not just scams. So I told the story in an earlier video earlier this week about a company stock that I sold. I had 6 figures of this company stock I bought in 2021. And when I went online to sell it on Fidelity, I had like 7,000 shares of it, which is, irrelevant. But I had 7,000 shares and I sold 1,000 shares, and the price dropped by like the overall price of this company. The share price dropped by, I guess, what was it? It was like 3%. And it literally, me selling 1,000 shares at a low price made it drop 3% off a market cap of like $700 million. So whatever 3% of that, it dropped like, I sold like barely any. For every $1,000 I was selling, the market, the price that was dropping by like, $1 million. I mean, it was a crazy ratio. And so I sold 1,000 shares. The price dropped by 3%. I sold another 1,000 shares. The price dropped by another 3%. I sold another 1,000 shares. The price dropped by 6%. I was like, this is crazy. I'm dropping the price of the entire market cap of this company is dropping by like $100 million because little old me is selling a tiny little share. Now, I had bought a tiny little share. They had sold $75 million of their stock. So the total amount of stock out there that could sell was $75 million. And I was selling just a tiny little, very, very, very extremely low 6 figures amount of this stock. So I was selling basically a little fraction of one of the $75 million. And I'm causing the price of this thing to go down, which was not my intent. I had no intention of altering the price. I thought the marketplace for that stock was liquid enough that I could sell it without altering the price. But as soon as I saw that, I was like, well, I don't have a choice here. I want to sell this stock so I can buy more Bitcoin. And I can't help it that every time I hit sell, on 1,000 shares and then 2,000 shares and then 1,500 shares and then another 1,000 and then another 2,000 or whatever it was like 5 different purchases. The price of the company dropped by like 3% every time I hit sell. And I was literally watching the stock price on the stocks app in Apple. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, I'm just trying to exit my position here. I'm just trying to sell the stock. I don't want the price to change. It's ridiculous that the price is changing, but that just shows you that there was just almost no trading activity for that. And so that there was just not enough people who wanted it at one price or the next price or the next price. So every time I hit sell, the price dropped to the next lowest denominator of people that were willing to buy it at that price. So the good news is Bitcoin has tons of liquidity. Bitcoin has tens of billions of dollars of daily liquidity, which means today, I was talking to somebody a few weeks ago, and they said, yeah, well, what happens if somebody, sells $5 or $10 million of Bitcoin? Doesn't it move the price? I was like, no, not 5 or 10 million. You can buy or sell right now in Bitcoin up to probably $5 billion before it moves the price. I mean, you have to have a massive amount of money. Now, that's still small. I mean, still nation states, major nation states are still looking at Bitcoin and saying it doesn't have enough liquidity to be a strategic reserve because we need to be able to come in and out of $10 billion on a day without it affecting the price. And the truth is right now, $10 billion does move the price. As the price gets higher and higher and higher, in the early days, $10 would move the price. Then it was 1,000, then it was 100, then it was 1,000, then it was 10,000, then it was a million. 100,000, then it was a million, then it was 10 million, then it was 100 million, then it was a, billion, then it was, now we're basically at where it's like, no, you really need to buy or sell $10 billion in somewhere between a day and a week in order for the price of Bitcoin to reflect that at all. Meaning you're either buying and it's pushing the price up a bit, or you're selling and it's pushing the price down a bit. But what you want is to be able to, however much you have, to be able to sell or buy as much as you want with no impact on the price. That is what a liquid market is. You can buy or sell as much as you want, and there's no impact on price. That's what you want. So Anyway, thought I would throw that out there. So liquidity is how much buying or selling, or how much appetite there is for buying and selling anything on any given day. And deeply liquid markets, it's important to have a deeply liquid market in order to, know that you can buy or sell anything. Scam tokens are extraordinarily non-liquid. And even this very little company that had just gone public, they had almost not zero liquidity, but they had such low liquidity that even a very small shareholder like me could move the price. Now, there could have been other factors at play. Maybe the price was moving every time I hit sell, even though I didn't intend it to. I don't know. But I don't think there was anything else at play, because it was like a 1-to-1 direct correlation. And I'm like, I'm just trying to get out of my position here. Like, it's not my fault the price is moving. So anyway, all that to say, you get into this with, sort of smaller coins, stupid coins that nobody should own anyway. But you don't have this problem with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has tens of billions of dollars of daily liquidity. And in the future, it will be, hundreds of billions of dollars of daily liquidity when the asset class is even bigger than it is today. So that's what liquidity is. You don't really need to understand that unless you're just curious. All you need to know is Bitcoin has a ton of liquidity, and whatever stupid coin that someone's telling you about doesn't have anywhere close to that liquidity. So don't chase stupid stuff, because, real stocks and real bonds and real Bitcoin have real liquidity, meaning you can buy and sell anytime you want without moving the price, unless you're a massive mega whale, which I am not. But a lot of these scam coins and altcoins and stupid coins don't work that way, and the liquidity really does matter, and they don't have it, and that becomes a huge problem as soon as you actually want to buy or sell some. So have a great day, everyone. Always a pleasure, and I'm here for anything you need. Thanks.